quite yet. There you go.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the first peak meeting of our new legislative session. I'm Irene Weiser. I'll be chairing this meeting and forthcoming meetings. Adam Vinson is the vice chair of the committee. And so I just want to welcome everybody. And actually what I'd like to do, we have a lot of empty seats, and invite any of staff that would want to come up now. We're going to spend a little bit of time introducing ourselves, and it just kind of feels weird that you'll be looking at people's backs as we do that. So if staff would like to come up to the table, you're welcome to. So I'll call the meeting to order. And I don't see any members of the public here in the room. Taylor, did we have any? No. Anybody on Zoom? And we should have both Iris Packman joining us by Zoom.
She has not joined yet.
Okay. And I think at some point Deborah Dawson will join us as well. But they're not here now. To get started, I would like to announce a change to the agenda that I'll be making, but I want to check and see if anybody else has changes to the agenda. Okay, good. The one change is that I've asked Haley's presentation on the commuter study to come at the end of the meeting. We checked in about that beforehand. She was fine with that. I just want to allow, since again, this is a new meeting where all of us new legislators, you don't know us very much. And, so I wanted to allow this meeting to be more about learning about what your departments do, and for all of us to get to know each other a little bit. Why don't we actually just start with a go-round of introductions. And for the legislators that are here, I'd like to ask you to identify an issue that interests you for the work on this committee. So, don't get into it deeply, but just a little bit of why you're glad to be on this committee. So I can start, of course. Irene Weiser. I represent the towns of Caroline and Danby. It's Lucky 13 is the district number. And a big interest of mine in regards to this committee work is resiliency planning and planning for all the climate-related extreme weather events that we have. So, Rachel, you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Rachel Ostlund. I'm representing District 16, which is town of Ulysses and half of Enfield. My interests are some similar to Irene, kind of the disaster planning, mitigation, hazard mitigation, but also, kind of working on preserving the water quality of the lake, and then also related to kind of preservation of ag land and things like that.
Hi, everybody. I'm Christy Bianconi. I represent District 14, which is town of Ithaca, West Hill, South Hill into Ithaca College and Longview, and Eco Village is in my district. I really wanted to join this committee, and I'll say this is not my wheelhouse necessarily, but I'm really excited to dig in and learn. I personally feel really passionately about living sustainably, and I know what it takes to do that, to get solar arrays in a farmhouse. It takes a lot. But I'm also excited to learn more about community-wide impacts where we can really make a difference, and I'm thrilled to have Irene and so many scientists on this committee to learn from. So nice to meet all of you.
Great. And I see Iris has joined us on Zoom, so I'll grab Iris next. Iris, if you want to introduce yourself and just briefly an interest that you have relative to the work of this committee.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, and just for the record, I did join earlier, but it just, I got added as a panelist recently. I think I'm not a scientist, but I am someone who works on social justice issues, and I'm really interested in trying to build out more renewables in our county and support that transition to cleaner energy sources, among many other issues. And I represent District 3, which is the city of Ithaca, the neighborhoods of Bell Sherman and South Hill within the city limits.
Great, thanks, Iris. John?
Hi, I'm John Hunt, and I represent District 12, which is south of Ithaca College and up until the town of Danby and Dryden, because it's not in them. It's totally in the town of Ithaca and extends east-west from East Hill Plaza to 96B. It's one of the new districts. Used to be partly Shauna's, partly Dan's. You know, as far as interests go, I've been recycling since I was about 6 or 7 years old. Used to take my wagon around in my neighborhood in the Bronx and collect cans for deposit. And there was no actual recycling back then in the mid-1950s. And later on, as I grew older, I started collecting them, saving things that could be recycled, and drove them to a recycling center somewhere in the middle of the Bronx. It was still not terribly organized. So I've got a history of recycling things for sure. As far as food scraps, I need a lot of education on that. I was discussing it with Irene the other day. I don't really know much about doing that. I wonder just how much education people have been provided about that in the interim, because I left Ithaca in 2013 after working at Cornell for 35 years. I am one of the scientists on the committee, background in geology. Yeah, I read about it a little bit online. Irene sent me a link, but I definitely need to be educated about that.
Great, John, thanks.
Yeah.
I'll just let you guys know, we've got a really packed agenda today.
I'll stop there.
Okay, thanks. Adam?
I'll keep things brief. My name's Adam Vinson. I'm the representative for District 4, which is parts of College Town and Cornell University in Ithaca. I have a very strong environmental background, which is why I have an interest in this committee. I'm a recent undergrad from Cornell, where I majored in environment sustainability. I also worked as a student at the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. And my interests, I'd say, in this committee are both conservation and recycling and waste management.
Okay. And I'm Judith Hubbard. It's been interesting to hear people say, I am a scientist or I'm not a scientist. I am a scientist. I'm an earth scientist. I study earthquakes, which is not quite the same. But one thing I've learned from being a scientist is that you don't make change just as a scientist alone. You really need to have that effort from the scientists and from all of the other people, the governmental agencies and the people on the ground and you know, all the diverse communities to actually affect any change. I've been listening to the peak meetings. I was reading through the agenda this morning, and I was remembering how much fun it is to listen to peak meetings compared to all the other meetings. I think we should be the most fun committee, because that is where all the things that make Ithaca and the county so great happen. I mean, other things are good too, but like, this is why I live here, is because it's so, the community is so supportive of these environmental issues, and the environment is so beautiful and wonderful to be in. So that's why I'm here.
Nice, thanks. All right, so back to just some of our basic ministerial jobs. I'd like to get a motion to approve the minutes from last month. Great, I'll have Rachel for the motion and Judith as a second. So all in favor of approving the minutes?
We'll have to do a roll call vote because Iris is
Oh,
online.
because, sorry, we have to do a roll call because Iris is out there in Zoom land. So all in favor of approving the minutes? Irene?
No,
Oh, nope, we'll just go around the
a roll
circle and you
call.
can name them each.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay, got it. Irene, yes. Rachel?
Yes.
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 And Iris?
Yes.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. All right, next on our agenda is appointments to various to various committees, some of which are considered legislator appointments, and others are known as something else, advisory board appointments. And so these also need to be voted on. And first of all, I want to thank everybody who stepped up to say yes to participating in these. So do I ask for a motion here, Taylor, or how do I start this?
Yeah, so first we'll start with advisory board appointments 13832, which is 5A on the agenda.
Okay,
And that's the one that's stapled together.
right, got it.
Yep. And you can ask for a mover and a seconder for that, and then we'll do a roll call vote after you announce the names.
Very good. Okay, so would somebody like to move this resolution to have an advisory board appointment? I see Adam first and Judith as a second. Thank you. And now we'll go through a roll call vote.
First, we'll read these names.
Oh, I should read them all? Okay. So we have an appointment to the Environmental Management Council of Brian Wendell. He'll be an at-large representative whose term expires on December 31st. And Kathleen Yen, also an at-large representative whose term would also expire on December 31st.
2027.
In 2027. Oh, did I say 26 before? Sorry about
No,
that.
you didn't say anything.
Okay. And then Soil and Water Conservation District Board members, Sean Bassard, who's a Grange member, and their term would expire also on December 31st of 2027. So is there any discussion? All right, I'll call for a roll call vote on that. I'll begin with an aye.
Yes.
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 And Iris?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Great, thanks. All right, now we move on to the next one. These are the legislator appointments, which is document number 13816. And these are legislator appointments. We also need to vote on these. So can I get a motion to put these on the table? All right, we got Adam and Judith. Thank you. And so I'll read off the 2026 legislator appointments. For Agriculture and Farmland Protection Board will be Rachel Ostlund, county legislator, and their term expires December 31st of 2028. The Tompkins County Planning and Advisory Board will be me as legislator and chair of Planning Committee, and my term will expire at the end of December 31st, 2027. Fish and Wildlife Management Protection Board, we have Judith Hubbard, who will be a legislator delegate. And Judith, your term expires December 31st of 2026. And Adam, you'll be the alternate for that. Your term expires December 31st, 2026 as well. The Hillview Road Landfill Citizens Advisory Group is in my district. I will be the representative to that. Again, as a legislator, my term would expire on that advisory group December 31st of 2026. Soil and Water Conservation Board is Randy Brown, legislator who's not on this committee but has opted to continue in that position, and his term will expire December 31st of 2026. And John Hunt. John, thank you for stepping up for this position. John is also a legislator. Term expires December 31st of 2026. And Judith, Water Resources Council, is a legislator. Term expiring December 31st, 2026. So with that, I'll call for, is there any discussion? Other than my really deep gratitude to all of you for stepping up. I know we all have busy schedules already, and these came maybe as a little bit unexpected, but I appreciate that everybody jumped in to do it. So With that, I guess we'll do a roll call vote. I'm going to start on the other side of the room this time. Judith?
Yes.
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 Iris?
Yes.
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 And yes, so unanimous there. All right, and now we're going to move to committee liaisons for the planning environmental quality. For this committee, I'll be I guess we need to move this one separately?
Nope, this one's just an announcement. This one is just
This one
an
is just an announcement. Okay, we don't need to vote on this one. So in addition to the advisory committees, we also have members of PEAK who will be liaisons to committees that report and give advice to PEAK. And so there's the Climate and Sustainable Energy Committee, known as CASE, and I will be the liaison to that. There's the Environmental Management Council, and Adam has agreed to be the liaison to that committee. And Ag and Farmland Protection Board, I will be the liaison there as well. So, yeah, Judith.
I was just wondering, I see we have a legislator appointed to the Ag and Farmland Protection Board, and we have a legislator liaison appointed to the
Yeah.
same board. Do you know why that is?
I gather that one is a voting appointment and the other isn't, but I don't know.
Correct.
Kayla, if you have more history than that.
Correct. One's a voting legislator and one is a liaison.
All right, so that just was an announcement and no vote on that. And so I think now we can move on to my chair's report, which is, as I've already said, welcome to everybody. I'm excited for this committee going forward and for having all of you as members. It's really clear as we went around the room that there's not just background, but passion. And that's a really wonderful thing. So thank you all for being part of it. I do want to let you know, and we can figure this out after the meeting, but I've already been getting contacts from several nonprofits in the area that would like to talk with us, meet with us. So I'd like to connect with you guys and figure out how we want to do that. PEAK's agendas tend to be pretty full. And so whether or not we can fit them in regular meetings, or whether we want to have some outside meetings, kind of along the lines of what Rachel has been coordinating for us to just get out and meet the various departments. This would be meeting some of the nonprofits that do allied work. It wouldn't be to make decisions, it would just be to meet them and learn about them. And then at times when they do have reports that they want to give to us would be an appropriate time for them to come and report to our board. But anyhow, we'll figure that out after, but I just wanted to put it on your radar. And that's really, at this point, all I have is a chair's report, other than, well, there is one more piece just that I learned this morning. I don't know, some of you may have heard that the Washington Post is scaling back, I think about a third of its news reporters overall. Washington Post has historically been a leader in climate reporting. And they cleaned it, they gutted the entire climate reporting section of their news team. So that's a huge disappointment and a huge loss for us in terms of knowing what's happening in this country and decisions that are getting made around climate. So anyhow, moving on, County Administrator's report. I guess, Norma, you're here representing
Here, yes.
administration. Great.
Just so you know, you will most always see me here at this
Okay.
committee as a representative for county administration. And I have the pleasure of working with the departments that report to your committee. So I wanted to, one, tell you that we do have goals coming from all of the planning, the departments that report to this committee coming next month. They were all submitted to county administration. We're compiling them, and they will come to to your next month's agenda, so you can review those goals. Just because I know everybody's kind of learning this, the committees also review budget and programs throughout the year. So we should keep that in mind, that that's part of the responsibility of each program committee to review what programs are taking place within the departments, because when it comes time for the expanded budget committee, you will all be well informed of what is happening in these departments as we're preparing for budget as well. So that's all I have for a report today.
Okay, great. Thanks, Norma. Look forward to seeing you more often. All right, so now we have some time with the Department of Planning and Sustainability. And what I'd really like to start with, and again, encourage all of you folks from DPS to come on up and introduce yourselves so that we can get to know you a little bit, at least put names and faces together. And then Katie will give us a bit of a department overview and you know, really a bit of a conversation about what their goals are and how we can support them. So Katie, you want to start?
Hi, everybody. Welcome to 2026 and the new Peak Committee. I'm looking forward to working with you all throughout this year. I hope we can work together to accomplish some great things. As you know, the planning department is right downstairs, so we often bring our staff up to be able to have you get to know all of us better. Plus, we have a ton of different topic areas that we cover, and all these people know a lot more about their in-depth topic areas than I do, so I figure you should get the best information possible. So we often have our staff come up and talk to you directly, which I think is a bonus. So Irene asked me just to talk a little bit about...
Can we just introduce everybody first, and then, or did you want to? Okay.
Yeah, so
okay.
I'm Katie Borgella. I'm the Commissioner of Planning and Sustainability.
Hi, I'm Megan McDonald, Deputy Commissioner of Planning and Sustainability.
Haley?
Hi, I'm Haley Delisle, the Sustainability Coordinator for the county.
Darby Kiley, Associate Planner.
Abigail Connor, Environmental Planner.
Terry Carroll, Chief Sustainability Officer.
Great. Okay. Now take it away, Katie.
Sure. All right, so I thought I would start with this overview by just highlighting our mission. So I'll just read it to you. The mission of the Department of Planning and Sustainability is to create high-quality, useful plans on critical issues and lead implementation of actions to position all Tompkins County communities to thrive now and in the future. And so just breaking that down, what is involved in accomplishing that mission? Well, you need to compile and analyze data to identify trends and emerging issues that might be occurring in our community, regularly interacting with our community partners to understand what issues are critical to them, creating plans to identify important steps to take to address those concerns, and finally, when there are not clear partners ready to carry out the important actions that we've identified, actually take the lead in implementing those actions. And the main topic areas that we work in I put them into different buckets. For Peak, it's comprehensive planning, community energy and sustainability, municipal support and engagement, natural resources, water resources, agricultural resources, hazard mitigation, parks and trails, and advisory board support for the EMC Water Resources Council, Planning Advisory Board, and CASE.
So you can now see why our peak agenda gets pretty full. Go ahead, Katie.
Yeah. And I believe John is the only one who will have the pleasure of having all of the committees that we report to. You're on all of them. So for our HED, our Housing and Economic Development, obviously we have a lot around housing that we report to them, community development, municipal support and engagement, and our tourism program. And then for facilities and infrastructure, we've got county government planning and operations, energy and sustainability in county facilities, fleet management, tourism and mobility, mobility management, and TCAT and gadabout funding oversight. So you can see we do a lot of topics, and it keeps it a lively atmosphere downstairs. You're welcome to drop by whenever you want. We often try to cross-pollinate and make sure that we are all aware of the issues going on in our little focus areas so that we can have a broader understanding of what's going on in the community. I know was that just Tuesday night, the legislature, when David and Shauna in our office presented the housing snapshot to the legislature. I thought David did a nice job of laying out what planners do. It was exactly what I was going to tell you, what planners do today. But it's really, you take the topic of housing and you apply it to any of the topics I just listed. It's pretty much what we do. So again, when we don't have land use authority in New York State at the county level, what do planners do at the county level? And, first of all, we do collect and analyze data, develop plans, and we focus on important kind of countywide or regional issues. Examples related to Peak's purview are the energy roadmap and energy strategy, which we'll be working on updating in 2026. Our resiliency and recovery plan, which we'll be working on updating in 2026, the hazard mitigation portion of that, and the harmful algal bloom strategy. Those are all examples of that. We are conveners and connectors. That's a big role that we do play. So we bring together people who have mutual interests to be able to talk about opportunities, threats. There have been a lot of grant opportunities coming out of that where people work together. Examples of that are sustainability practitioners. Monthly, Haley actually pulls together a group of interested municipal planners and institutional planners to talk about sustainability issues and emissions. Terry and Haley both played a big role in pulling together a statewide sustainability group as well to be able to share best practices and potentially make their voices be heard more strongly at state platforms. We pull together conservation partners. That's what Darby does that. She also pulls together Parks and Trails Network, which you hear from the community that it's really impactful to them to be able to have somebody pull them together, and you can find out what's going on in the Black Diamond Trail. You can find out what's going on the South Hill Trail and be able to share resources and ideas. Abigail does that with hazard mitigation partners, and that's really our municipal partners, and they share projects they've been working on, progress they've been making on the past strategy, and needs for the future. We also play the role of kind of cheerleaders, supporters, and encouragers. We do that with a lot of county departments and municipal partners. And examples of that are the debris management plan we've been working on for a while with Department of Emergency Response and Recycling and Materials Management. Post-flood, what happens to all the debris? You need to clear it out of the community as quickly as possible for multiple safety and health reasons. So that's an example. And then we also do a lot with bringing money into the community and doling money out to community partners. Examples are the 6 Mile Creek and Fall Creek stream corridor assessments that Darby's heading up right now, and our business energy advisors, which you'll hear about from Haley, where we actually provide some funding to local businesses to think early about their energy use in major renovations or new construction so that they can hopefully do some steps to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions at a time when it doesn't cost them as much money as if they tried to retrofit it later. And then I think any specific questions on work program, I'm happy to cover high-level work program items, but as Norma said, we will be bringing those next month as well.
Great. Thanks, Katie. You do so much. It's kind of amazing. You could give us an overview of it as concisely as you did. So thank you. Any questions for Katie about what they do or visions on anything? Anything? Any questions? Wow. Okay. Hearing you talk about the debris management and coordination with Department of Emergency Response, do you also coordinate with Whole Health on that? Because as you indicated, there are health implications as well.
I'll let Abigail answer that since she's sitting here.
Yeah, so a piece of that goes through their, I can't remember their title, there's like a public health emergency coordinator, which they get coordinated through that plan as well as resiliency and hazard mitigation. I think those are plans we really see that bring a lot of county departments together.
Good, thanks. And I don't know if this is an Abigail or a Katie question, but FEMA funding, and how does that impact any of this planning for the disaster response and resiliency?
I will say a lot, and then I'll let Abigail answer in more detail.
Yeah, I think we're seeing through the hazard mitigation plan with the dissolvement of the BRIC funding program that there is a lot of, that's the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Community Program that was originally funded through FEMA and passed through the Department of Homeland Security at the state level, that there are less opportunities, though we do see, unfortunately, more opportunities through the hazard mitigation planning grants, which are typically funded at the federal level when there is a disaster. And sometimes there's an opportunity when the disaster isn't in our area that we still have access to the New York State money.
Huh.
But that's not as, I mean, it's becoming more common, unfortunately, but it's not as common as an annual grant program, of course. But we're seeing that as well right now as we are still awaiting funds for the update of our hazard mitigation plan.
And are you able to continue moving forward if there isn't funding?
That is our plan.
Nice. Thanks.
I will add, it will be very challenging. These hazard mitigation plans are in many ways cookie cutter. They are kind of federally prescribed. They're consultants who do just that, and they come in and they have all the tools they need to analyze all the aspects required by FEMA. So if there isn't money provided by FEMA, we'll need some serious guidance from the state on how to make sure we come up with a plan that addresses all the aspects required. I know the state recently put out a call for municipalities who need to update their plan to be in compliance. So they might have ideas on how to help us with the tools that we need to do the analysis of the different hazards. And yeah.
Okay, great, thanks. All right, well, any other questions while you were sitting here? Nothing percolated up, huh? I'm gonna have to get some supercharged coffee for this group, I think. All right, Katie, thank you, and to all of the planning department, thank you for the work. It does really support what a lot of us love about this community, so thanks.
Thank you.
All right, moving right along. I guess now we have some official business from you, Katie, and we'll start with the resolution for budget reappropriation of grant funds to the 2026 budget for the Business Energy Advisor Program. It's item number 13743. So can I get a motion to put it on the table? I'll pick Christy this time and Adam for a second. Thank you all. And Haley, I guess you're going to talk to us a little bit. I'll let you know that I did send out some links to our members in advance so that they could maybe get a little glimpse about what the BEA program is, but I'd love to hear.
Sure. So as Katie said, this program is, we provide funding to, it could be a business, nonprofit, municipality in Tompkins County. That's the big requirement, and it has to be new construction or major renovation projects. We cannot use county funds for this, so we seek outside grant funds because it's under the gifting kind of clause. So this is pretty straightforward. We're just trying to move money that we won last year from the Park Foundation into this year's budget so that we can continue doing this program, providing grants, and that's basically it. I'm happy to answer any questions, or if you'd like me to go in any detail, I can do that.
Sure. Judith. So I was reading the resolution. I see the money's kind of come in irregularly. Like some years there's no money that comes in, and last year was $108,000, which most of that, the plan is to roll it over. How much is the expenditure per year? Like how long do we expect the remaining $105,000 to last?
Sure. So last year we did a big kind of contract renegotiation with our partners. And so for each project, there's a little bit more variability, but it's between $4,000 to $6,000. So really that could go a long way. And so it could move us forward a while. And so another piece that plays in is how many projects are coming through the program. And so last year we only had 2 projects that came through. The year before we had 10. So it kind of fluctuates with how development's going, incentives play a big role. So it's a little bit variable. But yeah, last year we did win a big amount of money because our coffers were kind of low, so we sought that out. And that grant is over, I believe, 2 to 3 years. So it'll have to be a conversation with Park if we need to extend it further.
Thanks. Other questions? Judith has more questions.
Sorry.
Great.
Irene, I must have missed your email. I was wondering if there's a list of, for each project, what the outcomes were, like what the tangible outcomes were.
So I do have a list of projects, and I can provide generally, but this program we do keep confidential who participates. So I can provide general outcomes. So like say they worked on a heating system or they did energy efficiency upgrades. And so that I can provide to you because we also provide that to our funder. So I can send that around.
Great. Thanks. Anyone else?
I see Iris has her hand up remotely.
Great, thanks. Hi, Iris.
Hi. This is really cool to see. And I also missed the email about the details on it, so I apologize. I don't have a lot of background, but it seems like if we have all this money, I know grants can be tricky, and like if we have all this money, but then we show that we're not using it, does that mean we're not going to get it next time? Do you think that there's a need to like publicize it more so that there's more uptake, or is there a chance to like allocate it in larger chunks to make it more impactful, or your thoughts about trying to spend it, I guess?
Yes, so one of the big things that we started to work on last year, but with kind of the transition of the communications director didn't fully get to, is doing a case study or a couple case studies of past projects. So these projects do take a while to come to fruition, and sometimes, to be honest, they don't. They will kind of get all of their options, see them laid out, and be like, well, we can't really act on this now, but then years later they might. So it's kind of a report that goes with them for a while. So that's kind of been a little bit of the holdup of getting a case study, but that is a top priority for this year to do some publicity of that. And Park, I will say, is really great and very understanding. And so I think there's some flexibility there with future funding. But yes, I hear your point.
Katie.
Haley, do you want to talk at all about our partnership with the Park Foundation and the nonprofit?
Sure. So last year, which we did a kind of a rehaul of this program and changed it up a little bit. So Park has they did have, it actually didn't get re-upped for this year, but they did have this program called the Buildings Decarbonization Fund, where they were offering $500,000 in grants and $500,000 in low interest loans, 1%, which is amazing. And so we reformulated the program so that it could better go with that. So a new offering, which wasn't offered prior to last year, is that like a lot of times we would get nonprofits that would come to us and would be like, hey, my boiler is about to break. I need to do a new heating system. Can I just get you to look at these bids so that I know, is this heat pump going to work for my situation or what have you? And so kind of the Park Foundation or their new entry of their program kind of spurred this, and so allowed us to add this as an offering. So a nonprofit who has, less ability and financial constraints, they can come to us and we can have our engineering firms look at the bids, and so they know, like, yes, this is going to work, and so I don't have to do the boiler. I can do this heat pump system. These are the incentives that are available to me, and this is what the energy savings and cost savings will look like. Yeah, so that is new.
Great. I too have a couple of questions, a bit related. One is what you do to outreach and let whether it's nonprofits or businesses know that this program is out there. And then I'm especially wondering, and I think you guys know that there's the non-pipe alternative program going on in the Lansing area, and there were two commercial customers that originally had said, yeah, we want to do some improvements using the funding that was available through NYSEG and the non-pipe alternative. It totals close to $100 million, or close to $1 million, if I remember correctly. And NYSEG hasn't done anything further to encourage finding new commercial partners. I wonder if, in addition to just generically how you do outreach, whether you've thought about working in the Lansing gas moratorium area to really encourage people, because there's potentially quite a bit more money on the table.
Yeah, so a lot of different outreach techniques. I scour the Ithaca Voice and papers to look for projects that have gone through planning departments. I also coordinate with all of the planning boards, and so they're all aware of the program. They get updated flyers and so they'll send projects to me. We did a press release last year, which spurred some interest, though nobody kind of took the bait with that, but so that's another way we do press releases. And then in terms of the Lansing project, we did, prior to me working with the county, there was a Lansing specific BEA program, which had a lot of projects come through. We also have had a couple over the years, more recently. We haven't looked into tapping into the NYSEG funding particularly, though it is referenced in the report that it is available for the non-pipes alternative projects.
Yeah, maybe we can think about how we can strategize for that. All right. Did you, great, Christy?
Yeah, I just have one sort of basic question that's going to roll things back, but how do you define success in this program?
Yeah, I mean, one of the kind of the main drivers of this program is to have an opportunity for the community. So we do a lot to focus on our internal operations, and this is one of those outside programs for the community. And so it is hard because we don't always follow up, or rather we don't have good metrics for knowing if folks follow through, because it's their own money. They have to like be able to put that in to do a heat pump, which it is more expensive than doing a boiler. That just is true. But it's one of the ways that we're able to educate the community on what's available, alternatives for heating systems, any number of things, but then also to do that education on incentives. And so I think success is just getting those energy options reports out to community members so that they're able to make informed decisions moving forward.
Great, thanks. And I see Adam, and I think after Adam's question, if there are further questions, we'll send them to Haley afterwards, because we kind of got to move on to keep our agenda a little bit on time. But Adam, go ahead.
You mentioned earlier that the businesses you work with are kept confidential.
Can you use the microphone more? I don't
You
understand.
mentioned earlier that the businesses you work with in this program are kept confidential. Why is that?
That's a great question. That was from the inception of the program. And so it's really that the different partners that we're working with, they don't, if they're doing a construction project, they don't have to lay out what they're doing or why they aren't doing something. And so this is just, if they want to share that, then we get their consent to share it, but it's not really for the county to share on their behalf.
I'll add that when this project was, or the program was first conceptualized, there were some very controversial projects going on in the community, and we wanted to build trust with the businesses coming. You know, we're kind of this independent third-party information for them to have that isn't biased by somebody trying to sell them something or the community telling them what they want them to do. And we just thought by building that trust, you would go further with this program than if you shared, oh, well, they know all this information and they're choosing not to do it. It can hurt a business and they wouldn't want to participate in this program. So that was the thinking behind it.
Great, thanks. All right, so again, further questions, we can direct them to Katie and Haley. And at this point, I'd like to call for a vote.
Yeah, so Irene, we're going to announce the names this time, so you can do that or I can do that if you'd like.
So same deal. We're going to roll call vote. I'll start with I. Rachel?
Yes.
Yes.
Christy Bianconi?
Said yes.
Yes, okay.
Okay.
Adam Vinson?
Yes.
John Hunt?
Yes.
Irene Weiser?
Yes.
And Iris Packman?
Yes.
Thank you.
Judith.
And Judith?
And Judith Hubbard. My apologies.
Yes.
Next time we'll follow the order of succession that's on the bottom of the agenda, and I'll announce it for us.
Order of succession on the bottom of the agenda. Oh, okay. Got it.
Thank you.
So you call the names then? And
Or you can if you'd like.
Okay, all right. All right, great. Moving on to the next order of business on the agenda. As I said, we're going to skip over the employee commuting presentation for now. So we have a request for proposals of professional services for Fall Creek Stream Corridor Assessment Study.
Yes, that's me.
Great. Hi, Darby.
Hi, everyone. Darby here. This is a requirement of the county's procurement policy is to let this committee know when a request for proposals has been released. And then we haven't gotten to who we've selected yet as a candidate. So you'll see a TBD at the bottom. There's a 2-page memo on packet page 45 and 46. So keep skimming through there. You'll get there, Christine. So again, this is just for information only. You'll hear more about this project as it moves along. So if you have questions, I can email things to you. But yeah, we follow the same format. So the memo lets you know what the nature of the services are. So we have a grant from the New York State DEC under their, Department of Environmental Conservation under their water quality improvement project. And I'll just throw another acronym that we love for these programs. It's DWSP2, which is Drinking Water Source Protection Plan. And so this came out of Cornell's DWSP2. So the state has had funding and technical support to help the water purveyors across the state work on source protection planning. And so the city of Ithaca has done one for 6 Mile Creek. We are actively working on a 6 Mile Creek project that is equivalent to this Fall Creek one. And so it's following a prescribed requirements of this stream corridor assessment program. And so, we didn't have a lot of leeway in what goes into the request for proposals because it's all written out in the grant funding that we receive. So this just goes through that, the background, the criteria. We received 2 bids, 2 bidders for this, and we're just in the review stage of those proposals, and we'll hopefully have something within the next month, and we can just report that probably in Katie's commissioner's report. So,
great. Good, thank you. Thanks, Darby. Judith had a question?
Yeah, so it sounds like the funding is just coming from the state to support this program, plus whatever staff time goes into it. Right. What are the kinds of outcomes that we can expect once you have this document in hand? Like, how do we use it?
Yeah, it will identify places where we hope to further implement projects for water quality improvement, flood storage, retention. Those are kind of the goals of it. But so they'll go out and do some field work and look at property ownership. That's kind of the tricky part is to get funding on private property. We work with Soil and Water Conservation District for a lot of those types of projects. But if it's stream restoration or riparian buffer plantings, there's a variety of tools that are out there as best management practices for water quality improvement. Both the 6 Mile Creek and Fall Creek, they have a lot of sediment issues for the drinking water suppliers. So as you picture, 6 Mile Creek goes into those reservoirs, those are filling up with sediment. So any projects that can reduce sediment going in to there. Cornell's is more of a free flowing, they pull from the run of the river, so they don't have a detention basin, but they do have a sediment issues that they worry about. And then, kind of the bigger picture of the streams going into the south end of Cuga Lake and the phosphorus that we're trying to reduce in that based on projects that we can do to do sediment and phosphorus is a gain on both of those.
Great. Christy.
Just building on that, how are you engaging property owners along the creek?
Yeah, so for the 6 Mile Creek one, we had a survey that we announced through, what's it called? The Caroline Old Mill newsletter.
Oh, yeah.
We used that, and the Town of Dryden's newsletter. I think we also used Danby has a newsletter. So we did that. We do have a post on our website, but no one's necessarily looking at that. And then for where we're doing field work, we do direct mailings to those property owners, And we've gotten some really great calls back on, yes, here are some concerns that we have, and people have some good information on the stream running through their properties,
Iris, you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, Darby. It's great that you guys are doing this. I was curious because in the background it says that this is the primary water supply for Cornell. And I'm wondering how much of this is Cornell going to be supporting? Because it seems like it's, also directly implicates them. And that tension is always there. But I'm just curious what we have regards to their participation. I don't know if it's in this particular project or if it's some adjacent project.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, this drinking water source protection plan, they were the ones who put that together. Cornell was the lead on that, working with the Department of Health. And so I do have actually an engineer from Cornell is on our evaluation team for reviewing these RFPs, and the drinking water purveyor, and then this engineer will also be on our steering committee moving forward to, just make sure, mostly because they do own a lot of land in the Fall Creek watershed, so we'll be able to work with them on implementing projects. But I know they are looking at places where they can have phosphorus offset type projects for their permit that they have. I'll just say that.
And that's great that they're participating in that way. I'm asking more like financial participation. So will this project end up having additional costs beyond the study?
Right, so if there are implementation projects identified, whether we apply for grants or if it's on Cornell property, it might be something that they choose to do. But it's no financial responsibility on anyone to do this study. It's just then what's the follow-up? Is there funding available through the state or other opportunities to do the implementation?
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Great, thanks. Any other questions for Darby?
You'll hear more, don't worry. There'll be more.
All right, so that was just an information piece. We don't have to vote on that, so thank you. Thank you for informing us. And we do have one more action item, which is the acceptance of the snowmobile trail grant for the 2025-2026 season, and that's ID number 13831. And so again, I'll ask for somebody to move this resolution, Rachel and Judith. Thank you for the second, Judith. All right, who's gonna tell us about the snowmobile grant? All right, you're on, Abigail.
So I can give you a little bit of context that gives you some background on why this resolution is before you today. So the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation administers the snowmobile trail grant program, and so there are trails across New York State. The county has participated in that program since 1998, and our department has then been the steward of that. So in September, we moved some applications through phase 1 of this program through the legislature, and this funding is a result of that application. So that is 78 miles of existing snowmobile trails in the county through 5 snowmobile clubs. So that money comes through the county, and we disperse that to them on a reimbursement basis for the miles that they maintain throughout the county. So that maintenance looks like trimming trees that have either are overgrowing those trails, or clearing them, or grooming so that the passage is safe for those snowmobilers. And there are a lot of conditions that New York State puts on those trails.
Great, thanks. Any questions for Abigail?
I'm just curious, has the public said anything about this, pro or con?
It came to the legislature in September. We've heard, I think, mixed things over the years. But the nice thing about the state program specifically is they do have a lot of conditions on them about the time that they're allowed to ride on those trails and the conditions with which to do them, which does reduce the amount of miles traveled on actual road.
Right. People, sorry, go ahead, Katie.
Well, just to reply to your question, it's a mixed bag. Some people like snowmobiles and some don't. We do have 5 active clubs, so it gives you an idea that there are certainly plenty of people who want to be able to snowmobile. And this whole program is funded through registration fees that snowmobilers pay. So I think they kind of view it as some of that money coming back to them to be able to ride near where they live.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. Iris, I see you have a question.
Yeah, now I have 2 questions. First, who collects the registration fees, and to whom is that remitted? Is it set by the state? Is it county?
That is New York State.
Okay, and so the funds go to New York State, which then are reappropriated and however. Okay, thank you. And then I guess the other question, since we are also the Environmental Sustainability Committee, is I'm curious about the greenhouse gas emissions impact of snowmobiling. And from very, very cursory research, it looks like a snowmobile can emit, 10 to dozens or hundreds of times as much greenhouse gas as a car. So, I'm curious about this from a policy perspective. Do we have any data on how much these trails are used and what the impact is from a greenhouse gas emissions perspective?
Yeah, I'd say in regards to usage, they have a requirement, I believe it's of 6 inches on the ground before they're allowed to ride on a state-funded trail. And we know from last year, they got to ride I think once, maybe twice, based on snowfall. Obviously, that's very different this year. But I guess we would have a record of the amount of times they groomed, because that's what they can reimbursed for. But I don't know if Terry has any thoughts on greenhouse gas emissions.
So I'm trying to remember right now if our greenhouse gas emissions inventory and the data and the way that we're doing it this year includes off-road vehicles. I believe that it does, but I can get back to you on that. I mean, typically we're bound with our greenhouse gas emissions inventories and recording what we see for the data that we have. So unless we have, salient data that shows how often these are being ridden and the amount of gas they're consuming, it's really difficult to quantify that amount, but we can take a look and see what data that we have on that this year.
And I would just add that the county acts as a pass-through for the state program. Right. It's not our program at all. We just are allowing our snowmobilers to participate in it. If we didn't do it, it would be up to each town or village to determine whether they wanted to work with each of the 5 clubs to, it's just a coordination issue. If counties don't do it, it kind of means that snowmobilers in the community can't participate in the program.
Would we be able to at least get the data on how many registered snowmobiles there are in the county?
I'm sure we can
request that. Would that be easier to pull than?
Yeah, I'm sure.
I'm just curious. We can then estimate, and I don't know what the enforcement looks like in terms of are people waiting till they're 6 inches on the ground before they go out, or?
I do think that New York State does pay good attention to that because they don't want any extra liability on them as part of this program. And so I think a big part about this is also that safety aspect, which is a basis of this program, because if not, there is a higher chance of much more unsafe snowmobiling. And we do know that snowmobile crashes that's a leading cause of people die every year of that. And I think a hope from this program at the state level was to encourage safer riding. And I will say that part of the reason that this comes through this committee is that we do see if there are changes to those trails, this committee will see the environmental review for those, which we took a few of 3 or 4 of those through this committee last year.
Great, thank you.
Great, Judith? And I think, again, we're going to wrap up after Judith.
I was wondering if any of these trails are used during the non-snow season for other things like walking or biking, and if so, does this maintenance actually contribute to other uses of those spaces?
Yeah, so it depends on the trail, but so as a piece of this program, they are required through the state to have private landowner permission and or permission if they're on state lands from the state, from the DC. So potentially on the state lands because they're following, and that's the other thing to know about this is typically what we found, through the secret process and what we presented in September of last year, is that typically they're riding on logging roads and other established already roads, and so they are clearing some of that. But a lot of this does happen on private land that they get permission from those landowners for.
Darby?
It looks like there are 478 snowmobiles registered in Tompkins County, according to data.ny.gov.
Thank you, Darby.
Thank you.
Who knew?
And so I will note that this is as a result of our phase 1 application of this program, which is the documents that this committee and the legislature saw in September, and these awarded grant funds are as a result of that.
Okay, great. So I just want to check in. Do people have questions that they need to have answered before they feel like they can vote on this? Okay. Well, in that case, I'm going to call for a vote. I think we'll do roll call again. I'm catching on, Taylor. So do you want to call the names or do I call the names? I can start with my name. Yep. There I am. Irene Weiser, yes. Adam Vinson?
Yes.
Christy Bianconi?
Yes.
Judith Hubbard?
Yes.
John Hunt?
Yes.
Rachel Ostlund?
Yes.
Iris Packman?
Yes.
All right. That's unanimous. So I guess snowmobiling trails go forward with their funding. Great. So thank you to everyone from the planning department for being here for this part of our meeting. I think we're going to transition now to hear from recycling and materials management. So I want to welcome Leo Riley and Kat, and we'll hear in the same kind of way. I think Leo will do, whatever personal introductions you guys want to give, an overview of what your department does. We'll have some conversation, questions, and then Haley, we will get to you. You're not forgotten.
Great. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Leo Riley. I'm the Director for Recycling and Materials Management. I have been the Director roughly 3 years. Prior to that, the Deputy Director. I've been with the county for roughly 19 years. I spent the first 25 years prior to the last 19 working in the private sector for companies like Waste Management. 45 years or so in the industry. You kind of get into waste and you can't get out. What we're planning to do, and we'll let Kat introduce herself, but so what we're planning to do is give a kind of a brief overview of our department's work. Our department, I think you'll find, over the course of the next few months, that it's really, really broad. There's a broad spectrum of what we do and what we get involved with. We'll give you a snapshot on our 2026 goals and some of the major initiatives and plans that we have for 2026 that you'll be seeing a number of different times throughout our committee meetings. So we'll have Kat introduce herself, and then she'll start right off with presentation.
Great, thanks, Leo. Good morning, I'm Kat McCarthy. I'm the Deputy Director here at Recycling and Materials Management. I've been with the county collectively for about 14 years. Started in a role as a project assistant and kind of worked my way up to Deputy Director. And I will say, like Leo noted, once you're in the materials management field, it's really hard to leave it. So I'm very passionate about this work and excited to be here and share information with you. We do have a ton of acronyms in our work. I have it on my radar that we are going to spell those out for you, but if we miss something, please feel free to ask. I know there's a lot of them, and they get thrown around. So with that, I'll kind of kick off on some background about our work. Leo mentioned that he wanted to share a little bit about our goals. Our mission really does drive the work that we do as we're looking at our work plans for the year. So our mission is to manage the solid waste in Tompkins County in a manner that is environmentally friendly, cost-effective, socially responsible, and safe. And we have a very strong emphasis on the 4 R's at our department. So we look for opportunities to reduce, reuse, recycle, and rethink waste before we're getting to the end-of-life disposal in a landfill. So that's one piece that we focus on. The other component that's really kind of helping us as we're shaping our work plans for the year is our local solid waste management plan. This plan was passed and approved by the DEC in 2025, so we are now working with a final solid waste management plan. The title of our plan is Reducing Waste in Tompkins County, Fostering a Local Circular Economy. It encompasses a planning period of 2023 to 2032, and there is an implementation schedule in this plan that really guides our work on a yearly basis. It does outline an ambitious goals to significantly reduce waste in Tompkins County. So the starting point that was developed in the plan, the DEC looks at it not by a percentage reduction, but really the pounds per person per day that are generated of waste. So, the jumping off point from the beginning of the plan is about 2.7 pounds per person per day. And over a 10-year period, we're looking to reduce it down to about 1.3 pounds per person per day. So that's a pretty significant reduction that we're aiming for. And that's where this robust plan is really looking to guide us in how we're going to achieve that. Leo mentioned it, we have a variety of ongoing operations and responsibilities that transpire throughout the year. Our department oversees a variety of programming and initiatives. We're responsible for operations that happen 7 days a week. Monday through Friday, we have contracted operations that start at 4 a.m. until 6 p.m. The Recycling and Solid Waste Center is open 6 days a week, and while staff at the facility are contracted for operation, staff at the scales work for our department. Our office also serves as the call center for the residential curbside recycling contract that collects over 45,000 units in the county. We also monitor and maintain 2 closed landfills in the county. And then in addition, we have 4R programs that encompass initiatives like our Rebusiness Partners program, Borrow a Bin, public space recycling, and more, including new initiatives for waste reduction and reuse.
That's a lot, so I'm just going to jump in and say we do have a planned visit for all of the new legislators. I believe it's February 20th at 10 o'clock. We're really looking forward to that visit, and we can get certainly into some more details with some of those things. If you can't make that, certainly reach out to us. Past visits from new legislators have really shown to be extremely valuable, not only for the legislators, but for us. So we will certainly make any accommodations to get you in and spend a little time with us. So I'm going to talk just briefly on 2 of our main contracts. We have a $10 million annual budget. Roughly $5 million is spent on these 2 contracts. The first one being the county curbside recycling collection program. There's roughly 45,000 residential units in the county that's serviced every other week. We also have baked into that contract where we do pick up some smaller volume commercial generators if it's out at the curb. The weather, I think it was Terry when we came in asked how the year was going for us, and I said the year's going horrible. The weather has been a real nuisance for our department when it comes to collection and what we do at the facility and the machinery that we operate and delays and closings. But I do know, having been in the business for this amount of time, it does get better. The second contract is actually our largest one, and it's contracting out for the operation of the Recycling Solid Waste Center. That contract is roughly $3 million annually, and really I would say is the backbone or the cornerstone of our programs. A lot of things start and revolve around that facility. So with that, I'm going to talk a little bit about average commodity revenue. So we have 4 revenue streams that comes into our department. One of them being our annual fee that businesses, residents pay. We have revenues generated from our tipping fees, disposal fees. We have revenues coming in from our sale of materials, so our recyclables. I'm going to get to that in a second, but the fourth one would just be some miscellaneous revenues that's collected from permits and fines, bin sales, interest, that sort of thing. So average commodity revenue, everybody, I'm assuming, puts recycling out into their bin, and you'll have glass and you'll have aluminum and tin, metal, different types of plastics. All of those materials are separated and marketed to separate markets. What we get paid for that material all gets averaged out to an average commodity revenue. So we'll refer to that as an ACR. We have been reporting probably the last year and a half, maybe upwards of 2 years, to this committee quarterly on where we stand in the year or with a projection of this ACR. And you know, again, we will brief you throughout the year as to where we are to budget with this ACR. It's a big driver. The next slide gives you a little bit of a sense of this ACR history. So you will see this again quarterly, and we'll update it throughout 2026. And I think we have, I didn't speak much on the 13-month line graph. You want to go back one slide, Kat, if you wouldn't mind. So this is a 13-month line graph, and it gives you the average commodity revenue per ton. I want to say, is that December 2024, I'm sorry. December 2024, we sold material on average for $80 a ton. You can see kind of the peaks and valleys throughout the months during that year, and then you can compare December 2025 to December 2024. We had a difficult year in 2025. Go ahead. So this just kind of shows a little bit of history. You know, when I talk about a difficult year in 2025, we budgeted $95 on average for an ACR. The actual ACR in 2025 came in at $53 a ton. So the difference between the total revenue that we budgeted, which was over $800,000, we actually received $363,000. So you know, a few dollars makes a big difference. You can look back to 2021 just to kind of give you a snapshot of how the commodity pricing can really fluctuate. We budgeted $65 a ton in 2021. We actually received $106 per ton. Budgeted to get $450,000. We actually received $970,000. So kind of a snapshot there, and you'll see this quarterly as to where we stand throughout the year. You take a year like 2021, roughly $500,000 would have went back into our fund balance. So our department has its own fund balance. We're required to keep a fund balance of 16 to 18% in that fund balance. So that's a year where we contribute to that fund balance. A year like 2025, we manage things pretty well in 2025, but if we're short, then we have, we're able to pull through your approval, legislative approval from that fund balance. If I'm speaking to that correctly, Norma, correct me if I'm wrong. Okay. So there's a little snapshot on ACR. Next, we want to make sure you understand that we have some local laws with solid waste in Tompkins County. Reason why we're kind of surfacing this is because we have started updating our local laws. So we work with West Group Law consultant along with Maury County Attorney's Office. These laws were first put in place in the 1990s. So they're well over 30 years old and in dire need of updating. So we have, we've drafted, our department has drafted changes to those laws. We are in the process of reviewing those with West Group Law, which is environmental, they specialize in environmental law. So we'll be reviewing those with West Group Law and hope to, in a few months, have a draft to our county attorney here for review. So there'll be probably a lot of updates to this committee throughout this year as to what we're proposing to do with those laws and, looking for approval. So. Yeah, let me just say too briefly, we have 4 main laws, and those laws have to do with recycling laws, kind of pertain to mandatory recycling. We have the laws for our trash tag collection system, which is an incentivized pay-as-you-throw program to help incentivize recycling. So in other words, when you put a bag of garbage at the curb as a resident, you pay for that tag. If you can reduce the amount of tags that you're using by diverting food scraps to our food scraps programs, diverting all the recycling that you can to that recycling bin. We have other types of recyclables, whether it's, or I should say diverted waste, whether it's yard waste, tires, electronics, and all of that stuff. So that's how we incentivize the recycling through that trash tag law. And then we have hauler licensing. So all of the haulers that collect waste throughout the county need to be licensed through our department. That requires them to report data to us on what they're collecting and where it's going. And then lastly, we have disposal, which mainly revolves around illegal dumping type laws. So all of those are managed through our, and enforced through our department. I'll mention a couple capital projects that we have going on. I think we do have one capital payment that's going to follow this. So 2 current capital projects. The first one I'll talk about is Recycling Solid Waste Center upgrades. I've drafted that RFP. That's in the hands of Barton Judas. Barton Judas is an engineering firm that we contract with. So they're reviewing that RFP. They will put together the design and plans that get attached to that RFP. I believe that project is budgeted for $364,000 in 2026. Hopefully that's posted within the next couple of months, the RFP. And then we would be coming to this committee for the award of that contract. The second one that we have going is our closed landfill leachate improvements. So we have 2 closed landfills in the county, one at Hillview up in the Enfield, Newfield area, and then Caswell Road closed landfill in Dryden. Those leachate systems, collection systems that are in place are 30 plus years old, and it's time for a good assessment of those. So what's planned for those systems are a cleaning of those systems. There's valve replacements that'll take place once the whole system is checked out. We'll do tightness testing on that system in those tanks to get a good idea of future capital expense. So again, very similar at both landfills with the scope of that. We're also adding remote monitoring systems where we'll be able to just look it up on our computer to the level of the leachate that's in those tanks. You know, right now, during peak season, we are in and out of the landfills at least once a week just to monitor things up there. So that'll be a great improvement for us. That total cost, that's a 3-year project, 2025, 2026, and 2027. 2027 could you could see a replacement of those tanks at one landfill. We don't have both of them budgeted in that capital project. So I don't think I forgot anything. Yeah, total budgeted for those 3 years on the landfill project is $1,066,000.
We also offer an extensive array of programs to reduce, reuse, recycle, and rethink. This is a list that's grown over the years, and some examples of these programs include our education and outreach through tours, events, and presentations, as well as direct assistance to local businesses through our Rebusiness Partners program, our organics diversion efforts, which include drop spots, compost education program through Cooperative Extension, food waste prevention efforts, and on-farm composting work, just to name a few. We offer 6 household hazardous collection events each year. And there's also work that we do with the environmentally preferable procurement through the county, so green purchasing. I do want to note extended producer responsibility here, just very briefly. This is something that you might expect to see coming forth in the next few months. We often bring a resolution expressing support at the state level for state level packaging and paper EPR, which would engage manufacturers in the end-of-life management for packaging that they develop. And this could really support local communities who bear the burden of costs for the end-of-life management of and disposal of packaging that they don't really have the say in as far as design for recyclability. I think Leo might have mentioned revenues. Grant funding is one of the sources of revenues from our department as well. We have 2 active grants that are really focused on organics. So one is funded through the New York State DEC, and that's a 12-month curbside food scraps recycling pilot to collect in a select area of the city. We've conducted a similar pilot years ago, and this time we're really looking to learn more about operations, see how we can support even more diversion and increase food scraps diversion throughout the county. And it's important to think about that with the food scraps in particular. They're a wet, heavy material. So you think about it, there's a lot of opportunity when you're diverting that material from the landfill. This project also includes a food waste prevention campaign. So as people see how much they generate, we want to support their efforts to eliminate waste in the first place. Another notable project is one that's funded by the USDA. This is a 2-year grant initiative that's well underway. It looks at encompassing comprehensive food waste management. So thinking about prevention, repurposing or donating surplus edible food, and then composting what's left. So we offer businesses tailored support for food businesses looking to hone their operations. Food donation, prepared food is a highly desirable material as far as donation goes, and yet that's something that's been a challenge year over year. We're partnering with the Friendship Donation Network to pilot collection and redistribution of that. And so looking at supporting some of those logistical challenges that we've needed to understand to really be able to make that happen in the community. And then the last component of that is on-farm composting. So we held a workshop back in the spring, and this project also provides support for technical assistance for select farms, as well as some bin building to help them really manage the organics that are generated on site, and then look for opportunities to even collect material from the public, whether that's their CSA members or whether we're looking at local businesses that might have surplus food scraps that they want to be diverting. It helps build a valuable soil amendment for these farms. And with that, I think that concludes what we had to share today. I don't know.
We tried to make that as short as possible.
Yeah, I see plenty of questions already happening, so we'll go down the row. Rachel, Christy, let me see, I don't see a hand for Iris. Judith.
Thank you for the presentation. It's really, really interesting. For the ACR history, I was wondering, this is like a 5-year snapshot, but if you look at 20 years, like is this 5-year variability consistent? Like if you looked over a longer time scale, this is the variability that we'd usually see?
It would take a little bit of work. So in 2021, we entered into a new contract at the facility. Even though ACR always existed, In 2021, there was changes to the formula. And, you know, I certainly can speak to it more because it does get a little bit complicated. There's a revenue share affiliated with the money that comes in from the sale of material. So in a nutshell, the revenue share piece of it changed in the formula prior to 2020 going backwards, and then 2021 go. So it's not an apples to apples comparison, but it could be if we could convert those earlier numbers to an apples to apples comparison. Yeah.
Okay. I guess my question is, should we expect this amount of variability moving forward, that it would be like the amount that we could expect could change this drastically?
Yeah. You know, I could tell you, haven't been around all of those years.
Yeah.
We've seen some of the poorest commodities in the past 6 or 7 years than we've seen throughout. Yeah, it's and I would say if we did see some downward spikes in the commodity revenue, it wasn't all that long before it was back up. We're probably sitting on a good 2-year run of what I would consider poor commodity revenues.
And this doesn't have to do with contamination. This has to do with how much money we're actually getting, or are they connected?
It does not have to do with contamination. The contamination could drive the expense side of what we do. Yeah.
I guess so I'm interested in learning just a little bit about the incentivization program that you use. Having people buy the tags is supposed to help them recycle. And I know that what you see then is a lot of people putting everything in the recycling, right? And so it's about kind of messaging to the community and helping people understand how to prevent that confusion. So where do you see the most confusion coming from, and how do you handle that?
So you're saying that residents or participants would contaminate their recycling more to move material from the waste to?
Yeah, because it's free.
Got it. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So I'll first start with it. I'll have Kat chime in. Kat loves the pay-as-you-throw system. So the program that we have with the recycling collection, I believe we had a few names for it, but I want to say we have the please stickers. So our collectors, when they're out on the route, if they see contamination in the bin, we supply them with please stickers. So they'll put a sticker on the bin. They might handle it a little bit differently, but let's say there's a bunch of styrofoam in the bin. They can choose to kind of set the styrofoam aside, dump the recyclables, put the styrofoam back in the bin, and then put the sticker onto it that has the check boxes as to why we didn't take it. Styrofoam is one of the check boxes onto it. So it's managed at the curb and at the collection point best we can. And I guess that's one method of kind of preventing the contamination, if that helps. Now, to even go a little further into it, the committee will be hearing some stuff on curbside collection RFP. This current contract expires in October of 2027. But an RFP of that magnitude, we probably should have started a couple weeks ago on drafting this RFP. Now with this RFP, we will be exploring and looking at carts for collection, and the carts are affiliated with automated collection. So 2 different collection methods, one with a cart being automated versus what we're currently doing today with the bins. One positive thing with the bins is drivers can see what's in those bins for the most part, before dumping them in the truck. When you get into the carts and the automated type system, drivers don't necessarily see what's in those carts, and everything's dumped in the truck. So that's going to be certainly future conversations with this committee as we approach that draft RFP.
Thank you.
Do you want to chime in?
Sure, I'll just add, if you're wondering why they're called please stickers, it says please make the necessary corrections to your recycling. So that's kind of one of the ways that we try to have a friendly approach to educate the public and say, you know, this isn't acceptable, but, you know, if you make these corrections, your material will get picked up. We do a lot of education and outreach, really trying to focus on that, and we do try to kind of monitor what are the confusing items that people aren't sure about. Can this go in the bin? We do the annual recycling guidelines to really help people understand, and that includes your curbside collection calendar, but also kind of some materials there. And we have our What Do I Do With tool on our website that also has the recycling collection schedule, so you can kind of get prompts and reminders from our department as well as our newsletter. So a variety of different ways we do the education and outreach for that. I don't think Leo mentioned it, but we do have a relatively low contamination rate as far as compared to other communities per the last study we did on contamination as well. So it is something that we do really try and focus on to make sure that the material that's being collected is truly recyclable and has that directive to be recycled. I know Leo mentioned I love the pay-as-you-throw. I think we're fortunate as a community to have that as an incentive for waste diversion. And so I think there's benefits, but we want to be offering programs and initiatives to help people reduce waste and save money on those trash tags.
Yeah, and I think I love that we do this. I grew up here. It feels strange to me when I go to other places and they don't do it, so it's really there. But it's an affordability issue, and I think that's where the balance, we always have to look at what are we doing to make it more affordable for the people who can't afford those trash tags. Because what they do is, they let the trash build up, and then that brings in pests, and there's other health issues that come in to play. And I think as a community, we need to be more mindful of that. I don't want to stop the program, but I do think we need to really focus on affordability.
Absolutely, and we're always looking for strategies, and that's part of kind of our back to basics education and outreach, is trying to highlight kind of what are the programs that are available, kind of understand the structure that we have in place, and then where are the points where you as a consumer can tap into the opportunity to save money by not paying for disposal because something's recyclable. So we're always open to more opportunities for that, but also we are trying to keep an eye on that as well. Thank you.
Great, thanks. So I have Judith, then Iris, then John.
First, I want to say going to the recycling center is one of the great unexpected joys of living here. I never would have guessed that it would bring me such pleasure. I have two questions. One is in your outreach and food scrap work, how do you work with the schools? Now that a lot of the schools have free lunch and free breakfast, I imagine there's more kids eating it. And do you have programs to collect those food scraps, and are the trays recyclable? How does that work?
Yeah, it really depends on the school. A number of years ago, we were in, I think, just about every school in the county. That's changed a little bit just with, COVID kind of hit some things, and so the contacts in the school are something that we're looking to build back into a little bit more. There are a handful of schools that we're aware of that are doing compost collection, food scraps recycling, and diverting that and sending that through, and we're definitely open to working with more schools to help them divert. There's also, I think I mentioned, we fund the compost education program through Cooperative Extension, and I know they also do quite a bit in working with the schools and actually have kind of a special program going on working with a handful of schools to really specifically hone their diversion, and we're supporting that as well where we can.
Okay. Yeah, I think it would be great to expand that. Two of my kids go to Fall Creek, and I think there's a lot of food waste being generated by the school and the trays that hold the food, and I think kids would love to be part of that education and bring it home also. My second question is about the ACR. So it's average commodity revenue, but it's mixing together all these different streams. So I imagine you have some variability because there's actual changes in the prices of different metal and plastic and paper and so on. And then some changes are because we have different amounts of metal and plastic and paper and so on. Is it possible to break it out so we can see the different categories and how they're changing, and the different volume, the changes in volume in the different categories?
there's a lot of factors that factor into the ACR, really. I'm sure we don't have enough time today to cover them all, but I can tell you, I can speak to some of the factors. So the ACR is actually made up of positive revenue numbers and also negative revenue numbers. So in other words, glass has no positive commodity revenue. So glass factors in as a negative into that. There are months where we sell aluminum. So the commodity is UBC, which is used beverage containers. And so aluminum, that's probably our highest commodity material. That doesn't get sold every month just because of the volume that we receive. So the months that, that UBC is sold, as an example, the ACR will tend to be a little higher. And that can go the same as sorted office paper mix, which is sold a little higher than mixed paper. So it depends on what is sold that month. And I believe it's referred to as a weighted average. So it does depend on the volume or the weight of the individual material, what it's sold for, and how it's calculated, if that makes some sense.
Are there any documents you could sort of share with the committee? Maybe we don't need a meeting. Maybe it's just me who wants to see the detailed documents.
Certainly, yeah. So, as part of our invoice, we require our contractors to report a certain amount of material to us. In the facility invoice that we get, the information that we want to know is usually baked into the invoice in some fashion. Mm-hmm. So there is a breakdown of the materials that are sold, and again, however you'd like to do it. Maybe it's something that we can maybe try to cover on the 20th too. Yeah.
My last question is, how do you come up with the budgeted numbers? They're different from the actual numbers from the previous year. They're different from the budgeted numbers from the previous year. Does that come from the company that you work with, or is it something you generate yourselves? Well,
so if we're close to budget, I say I came up with the numbers. If we're not close to the budget, I say Kat projected it. I like that. That's a challenge. I always like to have that crystal ball, but there's no crystal ball that exists. The other challenge with budgeting for those ACR numbers is probably within the next few months, we're going to be doing our budget. We'll start our budget. So in 2026, the actual ACR numbers we'll be working with, if we're lucky, will be January through April. So we'll have 4 months of 2026 to project 2027. It's a roll of the dice, really. I mean, do we seek out some information from some publications? Absolutely. We do talk with the Casella and their marketing group to try to get a handle on what they're projecting and budgeting within their company. We look at trends. And I think I made mention, a number of years back, if you've seen downward trends in those markets, you could kind of expect an upward trend, but we haven't seen that in a couple of years. So as I sit here today, I'm going to be positive with 2026 and hope we see that upward trend in 2026 and continue right into 2027. So it's a tough one. If anybody's got any ideas on crystal balls or projections or looking at some things, I'd be more than happy to listen. Yeah.
I wonder if it would just make sense to use the number from the previous year, the actual number, because that sort of saves you some time of trying to worry about it. And at least it's a real number, and you could just, it doesn't seem like it's a lot more wrong than the numbers you did come up with.
Yeah, we're kicking around some ideas on budgeting flat, finding something. So if you've got the low here and you got the high here, let's budget for a few years right in the middle. Keep it right there and see how that goes. We have talked about, and I know there's going to be some more conversation with finance and administration, but we talked about creating some sort of a reserve or fund where it could just be used strictly for the ACR revenues. So again, if we get more than budgeted, it goes into that fund. That fund is there where we can just draw from when we're short with our revenues. That's a finance thing, certainly, and so there'll be some more discussion onto it. But yeah, I mean, your thinking is good, and we do give it a lot of consideration to see how can we flatten this thing out and normalize it in some fashion year over year.
Great, thanks. We're going to move on to Iris and then John.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. I will say my husband is the one who usually takes things down to the recycling center, and he loves it. So it's the staff there are fantastic too. I was curious around you said there were some laws that you were going to be looking for, and that you were working with outside counsel, I think, or a firm to help with that. Would you be able to give us a list or a summary of those proposed laws? Not now, I know we're short on time, but would you be able to send us an email or a list of that? I'm curious what the priorities are, and if there's any, ideas that you'd ever be looking for from us around policy directions.
So yes, to answer your question, yes, absolutely. So really anything that we would propose to change in those laws would be bulleted. So yes, the change would come to committee, and also the reasons driving the change, and we certainly hope to have some information that supports our recommendation. So, for instance, October of last year, we worked with Stony Brook graduate students. They came in, they did a waste characterization study. So, again, just to give you an idea of where we're going, we took select samples from different types of generation points, if you will, and characterize the waste, the garbage. So one of those generation points, I'll use multifamily homes as an example. So waste collected from multifamily homes are usually collected in these large trash dumpsters. We went through that waste. We don't have the results compiled completely yet, but that may rise to the top of the most, the waste having the most recyclables contained in the garbage going to landfill. So that would give us some support to kind of focus in on how waste is collected at the multifamily homes, as an example.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I am curious about enforcement. Too, I work at Cornell, and in our office buildings, every office has a recycling bin and a trash bin, and I know that it is practice for the janitors. They collect them both and they dump them into the same trash bag, and then everything is thrown out. So you put your cans in the recycling bin, it all gets thrown out. You put your paper in the recycling, it all gets thrown out. So I feel like that might also be an area where there's a lot of recyclables getting mixed in.
Yes, enforcement's going to be the key. I kind of hate to say this, but we've been without a code enforcement officer for 2 to 3 years, probably.
Oh, wow.
And we had a posting just closed, I believe, on a solid waste code enforcement officer. So there was one budgeted for this year, part-time, 20-hour-a-week position. We're going to start those interviews probably within the next couple weeks. So we are beefing up, getting back to enforcement. Yeah.
That's great. I love enforcement.
Great. Thanks, Iris. John. And I just want to let folks know that.
I think I have three quick questions.
Hold on just a second. I was continuing to speak, John. There may be a delay. I just wanted to let folks know that we're running a little behind on our agenda, and so John will be the last set of questions that we have here, and then any further questions, I'll ask you to follow up. Thanks.
Okay, 3 things I think you can answer pretty quickly. If I bring deposit cans and bottles to Wegmans and put them in those machines, do they go to you?
They do not.
Okay. I know that we learned don't recycle black plastic last year, and then it said food cartons. I think that's a little nondescript. Eggs come in a carton. If it's a cardboard carton, I'm pretty sure it could be recycled, right?
Yeah, so we had clarified the guidance on the cartons. So we're talking about the aseptic and the gable tops. So what that might be is like a drink box, you know, like the square drink boxes you think of the kids, or the bigger ones like your soy milk might come in. And then the gable tops are what the milk cartons you might see is kind of what you would be thinking about
Like
with
a
a gable top.
half carton.
Yep, exactly.
You cannot recycle that.
At this time, right.
Okay. And somebody else said if you can tear it, you can recycle it, because it's, you know, if it's got a plastic coating on it, you can't. And the test would be if you could tear it, but.
The tear test allows you to see if there's plastic in there, because if you're tearing it, you can kind of see if there's a little bit of plastic film. And so if there's plastic in it, typically that's not going to be.
Thank you. And then my third question, just personal one, is there a training for the food scrap program? Because like I said, I don't participate. I don't understand what it's all about exactly and what you do and whether or not I really want to do it.
Absolutely. Our staff are always happy to answer questions. I know we have a couple videos, we have information on our website, but if anybody has questions, whether it's coming to a drop spot or coming to our office, we're always happy to answer those questions, or if you see us in the community at an event.
When you say the drop spot, there's a person there you can ask?
Yes. There's 15 drop spots around the county, and all of them are, pretty much all of them attended.
Okay. You guys, thanks. Clearly, a lot of interest in this topic, and we look forward to seeing you each month, and I'm sure there will be continued questions as we learn more about the great work you're doing. But thank you both for this. So I now want to move us into executive session. I think
we had a capital payment.
Yeah, we do. Sorry. Oh, you had another page, didn't you?
We had a capital payment.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, whoops. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the leachate capital project that I spoke about, I think the capital payment is for $2,000 some odd dollars, and that's for some planning and design work that we had done through P&L.
Okay, and so you're just informing us?
Just what that is, yeah.
Okay.
The capital payment is.
Okay, great, thanks. And does that money come from grants or from the revenues that you generate? How do you get funding for doing these capital projects?
So that capital project in 2025 was bonded $350,000, I think, that year. So it comes from that bond.
Okay, great. Thanks.
You're welcome.
All right, and I jumped the gun on a few levels. We're not going to executive session quite yet. We still have Haley's presentation.
So I am prepared to do this presentation now, but I know we have executive session, so I wanted to just offer to move the presentation to next month. I'm not sure what you'd prefer.
Honestly, I would love that if you're really genuinely okay about it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Is there anything in there that's important for us to know now?
No, I mean, I think you could spend some time with the agenda packet. There's a lot of really good information in there, and then I can come prepared to walk you through that. And I know that you got the briefing in the COG meeting from Katie, so there's also good information there.
Okay. Katie?
I actually would suggest just going forward with it. I don't think your agenda packets are going to get any shorter in the future. And I think if we start the first meeting with pushing things off, it could be a problem. And maybe we could just give you the high overview, and then it'll give you enough information to be able to follow up with Haley with any specific questions we might have.
Okay.
Or you might have, sorry.
She's the boss, so no, that's great, thanks. And, you guys, this is a learning experience, obviously, for me and hopefully for all of us. So maybe we can work in our subsequent meetings to make sure we keep it tight and, limit the number of questions and, probing stuff so that we can always follow up with staff with questions in writing if we need to, but, just to keep things moving. So thanks for everybody as we move, as we learn together. And thank you, Katie, for advising us that it doesn't get any less packed. So thanks everyone for bearing with us as we run over, probably, I think, about 15 minutes long from what we had planned. So go ahead.
All right. Are you ready to fly?
We're ready. Go for it.
Haley Delisle, the Sustainability Coordinator. I'm going to talk to you about our employee commute survey. So the county has done greenhouse gas emissions inventories since 2008. We do them every 5 years approximately. But this is the first time that we are looking at employee commute habits. So we got 407 respondents. There's about 799 employees, so it's just over 50%. So pretty good response rate for a voluntary survey. And we didn't have any reward or anything to offer. And so why does this survey matter? So we wanted to create a baseline so we can track for greenhouse gas emissions moving forward. And we also just wanted to understand the commuting habits of our employees and then use that to inform future decisions. Perhaps implement some incentives and create some policies. Moving forward. So we want to understand how our employees are getting to work. 95% are vehicle commuters. We do have some bikers and walkers and some that are using public transit. On average, employees are commuting 4.42 days per week. So we have some telework that's showing up there. They travel about 13 miles per trip. And then just to note, a good chunk of our employees are coming from counties outside Tompkins County. And that's in the chart there. You can check that out. Okay, so what does this mean for our emissions? We have our employee commutes is about 751 metric tons of CO2 equivalent per year. What does that mean? You can think about it in terms of it's about 101 homes energy use for 1 year. So this is not insignificant. So definitely something for us to be paying attention to and worth reducing. In this survey, we also wanted to get a sense of our employees' interest in changing their current commuting habits because we kind of figured we'd probably have to make some changes to reduce greenhouse gas emissions moving forward. And so we asked questions about that. And so about 30% of employees are considering an EV for their electric vehicle for their next car. Some things that would kind of push them to do that is access to free charging when they come to work, a cash subsidy potentially for EV drivers, and then opportunities to test drive or learn more about electric vehicles. You will notice this other category here. That represents, I believe is, 141 responses. So I was like, this is a voluntary other. And so there was a box that they had to fill out. And so I was interested, what were they saying? And made that into a word cloud. And a big portion of employees were like, nothing could make me want to drive an EV. And so as an EV driver myself, I see this as an opportunity for education. Next, we wanted to understand are people driving alone or carpooling? So we said 95% are driving, and about 95% of that 95% is driving alone. So we asked that portion of folks if they'd be interested in carpooling, and a good chunk were, 32%. And so we were like, well, what would encourage you to do that? Assistance finding other carpool, people who are interested in carpooling, if they were offered money to do it, and then a guaranteed ride home if there was an emergency. Similarly, we asked if they would be interested in walking. Smaller portion here, but that kind of makes sense because you need to live closer. But a good amount, and some things that would encourage them to do that. Monetary incentive comes up again, and then an emergency, a ride home during an emergency. Similarly, for biking, 8.35% of respondents were interested in biking to work. Here we see a little bit more infrastructure requirements, so safe bike lanes, convenient bicycle racks, and then that monetary incentive comes back. And then lastly, transit. We have 24% of respondents were interested in taking transit. Similarly, they want a little bit more infrastructure kind of incentives here. So more frequent transit service, that guaranteed ride home in case of an emergency, and then monetary incentives. So some possible solutions, which I will say we have started to work on this. So this survey was collected at the end of 2024. I did a presentation to administration, and we got the go-ahead to start working on some of these. So one of the main, these are the low-cost, easy incentives. So doing some education and awareness. So utilizing the staff town halls that we have monthly. Courtney, the transportation planner, and I did a lunch and learn to county employees. We had over 60 participants. And so we talked about what are the existing sustainability programs, transportation programs in the county. That was well attended. Also, the county has a quarter of our fleet is electric, and so there are opportunities there to get employees into the electric vehicles, show them how the charging works. And so we did get approval to do last year at the employee picnic, have people test drive. The timeline was too short, so that's something we're going to be looking for this year to get some folks into electric vehicles and let them check it out. And then another kind of opportunity I see is carpooling incentives. So parking's a big thing that gets talked about. Offer some preferred parking for carpoolers with some just signage. Next, a little bit of a heavier lift, but creating a van pool or shuttle bus service. So having an area like, for example, Wegmans that has a lot of parking, have a van or shuttle that's able to take people in. You could do that, or larger carpooling networks just by, you know, I live in this place, you live in this place, let's get together. Things like that. There are also some of these mobility programs in the county. So Ithaca Bike Share and Ithaca Car Share. The county could offer free or reduced memberships to those programs. The county already does offer bus passes to county employees for transportation to and from work. So this is another kind of avenue that the county could look into expanding. Then we have this new center of government. So these are a bit of a heavier lift as well, but is a great opportunity with this new building. So there could be some infrastructure upgrades that could support active commuting. So installing showers, lockers, secure bike storage for folks. There could be a program to encourage park and ride use. So there's many park and rides around the county, organizing that for employees. And then helping to boost electric vehicle adoption, providing access to free or reduced EV charging at work. I'm going to skip over this section, but there is a really great document in your packet. It starts on packet page, I have it written down here. packet page 37. And this was the last question in the survey. We asked folks if they had any questions or concerns related to their commute that we should know. And we got 122 responses. This was not a required question. And so I've tagged all of those responses into 11 categories, which you can see in that area. And there is tons of really good information in there that our employees provided. So I think it's worth the read, but I won't go through it now. And then similarly, we have existing sustainability transportation programs that exist in the county. Just really quickly, Go Ithaca, Bike Walk Tompkins, Ithaca Car Share. I'm sure you'll hear from Courtney, our transportation planner, about the Tompkins Transportation Scout. But these are all free-ish or low-cost programs that employees but also residents can take advantage of. And so that's one of our goals, is to get that information out there. With that, I can take questions. I know I flew through that. What you got?
Good. Judith, be quick. I was looking at the Go Ithaca. It seems like it offers solutions to a lot of these problems already, including an emergency ride home. But I'm wondering what the process is like for people who use it and how much it's used. I was wondering if we could get a presentation by Go Ithaca talking about its usage at some point.
Yes, so I will defer that to, go ahead.
Yes, actually, they're going to be giving a presentation to the F&I committee, I think in March, maybe February, but March. But that goes to F&I, that particular topic. So, yeah, I can make sure to ask Courtney to let the committee know when that's going to F&I, so you could attend or watch.
On F&I, so
oh, perfect.
Lucky me.
Well, you're going to get it then, yeah. Okay.
And then the other question was, could we, as a county, we offer these free parking passes, but could we give people an incentive to not get a parking permit? Would that help encourage people to choose alternative modes of transportation?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that would be kind of comparable to a cash incentive that people would, yeah.
But it would be sort of enforced in that way, because otherwise you're kind of taking people on trust that they're choosing to walk, right, and not drive. But if they don't have a parking permit, then at least they shouldn't be parking in the downtown lots because they don't have the permit. So then it's like an automatic enforcement.
Yeah, I think it's something that could be considered. Obviously, we'd have to consult with our attorney and HR on something like this in administration. But yeah, there's a lot of creative ideas, and I think the information Haley provided gives a great platform for having those conversations.
Yeah, this isn't so much a question, but just between the housing presentation the other night and now this, I'm starting to get a real picture of how important the data is that you collect for us to then be able to think through where do we go next. And also part of what I'm getting a sense of is that it's not just about the data for you, that it really informs your actions as well, and your coordination with all of these other players. So I'm really, as I'm seeing the stuff that you present, I'm getting a broader appreciation for how planning works, and really it's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that helps move big things forward, that you're not doing all of them yourselves, but you're providing the information that informs the actions that others can take. So thanks for the work.
Thank you.
Any other questions, thoughts? All right, Haley, thank you for racing through that. It's such an amazing study, and you're right, I did read through these comments. They were really rich and amazing, so thank you for including them. It gives a much more nuanced view of what really makes it easier or hard for people to make the commuting choices that they do make. So thanks. All right, so now we are ready for the executive session that I talked about earlier. So I first need a motion to move into executive session. All right, I have Adam and seconded by Christy. Thank you both. And so now I have some stuff I need to read to you about executive session, that in accord with Article 7, Section 105 of Public Officers Law, executive session is only appropriate for the discussion of, there's a list of particular items, and the one that's germane today is discussions regarding proposed, pending, or current litigation. So we have a motion and a second to enter into executive session, and now we'll do a roll call vote to get in to do that. So I'm a yes. Adam?
Yes.
Adam Vinson. Christy Bianconi?
Yes.
Judith Hubbard?
Yes.
John Hunt?
Yes.
Rachel Ostlund?
Yes.
Iris Packman?
Yes.
Great. All right. I think we'll take a break for a few minutes while they do whatever they have to do with the AV stuff to put us in official executive session. Deborah Dawson is online. I think Deborah and Iris, you'll continue to join us through the exec session. Is that correct? Okay, great. And I don't know who else stays or goes. I'm sure you know more than I do about that.